Hello everyone, this is Ethan Dragon, and welcome back to another episode of Fire Emblem Heroes. So, today we finally gathered all of our free summoning tickets, so we can go ahead and actually summon on the Brave Heroes banner. Like usual, we're just doing our free summons, because it's not worth for us to actually summon with orbs on these banners. If we ever want to summon for them, there will be most likely a Hero Fest banner featuring them, like they do with all other Choose Your Legends banners. But before we get started here, we're just gonna go ahead and do our free summons here. We'll just go for red, I guess, because we have 4 reds. Why not? Probably went to the on bottom right for the memes, but before we actually go summon on the Choose Your Legends banner, Brave Heroes banner, whatever you want to call it. Also briefly go over each of the units and basically why I'm going to prioritize the units that I do. We'll go for red here, although probably picking up female Chris for future fodder. When we pick up another one, most likely best. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day, we just get free units, can't complain. So here we are. We'll start out basically in the order of what I think of the units, from not necessarily worst to best, but just in my opinion, their future, how well they'll do in the future long term. So here we have Brave Adult Hickey. Definitely has tons of effects, but overall, her main gimmick is trolling with specials with herself and her foes. And of course she has a new A skill and attack res finish, which is perfectly a fine skill. The 3 range proc condition is fantastic, much better than the 2 range of unities or whatnot, but of course it comes with different effects and you lose out on some stats compared to other tier 4 skills. And of course her exclusive skill, New Divinity, which is okay. In this day and age, it's pretty standard. You can basically think of it as a spin-off of Dragon Wall, because that's what it is. Although compared to Fallen Rhea, who got a higher cap on her damage reduction and scaling, Tiki just gets different effects. So overall, she's going to hit hard and be able to tank stuff. Long term, that's just an issue because if she runs into units that pierce her damage reduction, that's kind of a problem. But the key thing here about her is this fact that as long as she has enough res to, or was it 5 more res than the opponent at least, during combat, she can inflict the special cooldown count +1 on foe before they get to attack. So let's say a duo Prom has a pre-charged Deadeye. She's most likely going to kick back the Deadeye's cooldown to 1. So dual Prom can't proc Deadeye on that initial hit to basically guarantee the one shot. Now he has to attack twice, and if she has guard or something, he's not going to be able to proc that. Or she could potentially kill him on the counter, but one thing with Adult Hickey is that dragons don't have fantastic 2 cooldown special options. You have Glimmer and Moonbow. not very much to choose from there. You go up to Blue Flame, but honestly the scaling is horrible compared to Glimmer because of course it's a fixed amount of damage. And with something like Attack Res Finish, you're probably not going to be proccing it adjacent to an ally. So Glimmer is pretty much best choice, and her attack can only get so high, so of course that causes some issues. She has no techs against damage reduction, so the only way she can beat damage reduction is with pure damage output. So that's why we are not going to free summon her at all, or try to even summon for her on this banner, unless we got a full circle of green orbs, then we'll have a choice. Then we have Brave Self here. His main gimmick is a new proc condition of unit or foe initiating combat after moving to a different space, which is very common in this day and age. The biggest gimmick he gets is, of course, miracle shenanigans. He does need to have at least 25% of his HP at start of combat, but that's a typical balancing act that Intelligent Systems does, putting an HP proc condition on miracle. Kind of like Ever Living Domain or something on Ymir. You need at least 75% HP at start of combat to get the miracle effect. But he also can get a good amount of dealt damage, up to 40% of the foe's defense has dealt damage for each time he attacks, so he can chuck out quite a bit of damage. But of course, the thing here as well is he gets air to light, so he can move 4 spaces, and he has null follow-up, and of course attack and speed field buffs, which are all useful for him. That means in the future, if something like another Duo Thor or Riev, aka Stall Shenanigans, becomes super popular, Brave Cell's going to fall off in that respect. But the miracle thing will never fall out of respect, especially if you chuck him in Ether raids where he gets tons of extra HP. It's going to be pretty much impossible for the average unit to 1-round KO him without attacking 4 times. So there's not very many units that can attack 4 times enemy phase. And if they can, chances are they can't survive 2 attacks from Seliph. One thing to note though is that of course some people are running the, what is it called? Swift Surge? What is it called? The skill on Brave Erica, let's check. 10 out of 10. I was about to search Eureka because that's what I like to meme color. Surge Sparrow, that's what I thought. So, some people are running Surge Sparrow on him. Of course, the idea is you keep murdering units and healing, and you just keep chaining your miracle. That's great until you run into guard shenanigans, because of course he doesn't come with special acceleration. So you would have to run like Heavy Blade and Seal, which it's non-trivial to proc Heavy Blade against this meta nowadays, but he can certainly do it. So he definitely will last for a good amount of time. It's just a matter of his damage output, really, because again, kind of like Brave Hickey, Adult Hickey, he has no direct checks against damage reduction. He doesn't have a Deadeye or Lethality available, or something like someone like Young Innis who can ignore percent-based damage reduction from non-special skills as long as he procs special, things like that. He doesn't have any of that. His only check against damage reduction, just like Brave Adult Hickey, is raw damage output. So, not entirely sure how he's going to fare. He's on my so-so list where I'm not entirely sure if I want to go for him or not. Then we have Brave Prom here. Basically, he has a lot of meme potential going down the line because of his weapon here is fine. You can get some special acceleration. If you really meme and get a ton of bonuses and penalty effects active on him, you can get a good amount of stats, but of course the scaling is pretty poor at only ×2. If it was something like something absurd like ×5, then he'd be absolutely broken. You could totally meme and get him to have over plus 50 to all stats or something silly like that, but you can certainly still meme and get him like, I believe plus 20 is pretty easy, plus 30 is kind of hard, but his main gimmick that's going to set him apart long term is a Fate Changed. He can just casually yoink bonuses active on target allies. And he can even, this is an interesting thing, you can also give it to his pair up cohort, so you could do some meme shenanigans with that as well. But that's pretty much it. So if we get a ton of different bonuses down the line that are super strong, then he's going to be able to capitalize on them. As is, there's already pretty strong bonuses available, but the biggest problem is he actually has to use his assist to get those bonuses, And in particular, he doesn't come with no follow-up, so he has to use a fate change before attacking into an enemy to have no follow-up, which is a pretty huge drawback. For some people who haven't used this kind of assist skill, like the change fate, they might not understand that is a huge deal, but it is. At least he has the special acceleration, so he can deal with guard to some degree. He doesn't, and he also has acceleration of special trigger, and he already comes with surge barrel. So as long as he doesn't get one shot through his 40% damage reduction, he can heal back a good amount. Comes with near trace, SP near trace, fantastic, but yeah. Once again, it's a recurring theme. Brave Prom has no direct check against damage reduction, so again, no Deadeye, no lethality, no absolutely nothing. And he's even worse off than Brave Selef or Brave Adult Hickey, who can deal a crud ton of damage. Of course, he does have armored effective damage here, so he can do a lot to some armors. So there's that at least. But at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to what bonuses he can like from allies. We could do something like give him Fallen Star from Legendary Claude, but it's kind of pointless because Legendary Claude has to initiate combat to proc it. And at that point, things are probably awkward. But I'm sure he's going to age purely because of a fate change. It'll just be annoying, especially in arena modes. Like, just imagine a team of Brave Prom, Duo Prom, and Legendary Prom with a Legendary Azura because it's water season or something. Yeah, that's gonna be pretty mean. So, overall, his future is heavily dependent on what bonuses are available. But there's no bonuses in the game right now that can pierce through damage reduction. At best, you can do like dealt damage with treachery or do some other shenanigans like have a guaranteed follow-up attack with desperation from Harmonized Catria, or you could have Vantage, but he doesn't have that high of an attack stat to Vantage very well. So he's definitely a questionable future-proof unit. It really just depends on the future. And last but not least, for our rant, we have Brave Female Byleth. Her main gimmick is, once again, special spamming, similar to Brave Adult Hickey, except that she only deals with her own special cooldown. So essentially, Divine Pulse is always going to proc when there's almost no way around it. The only exception is, for example, Brave Adult Hickey. If Brave Female Byleth initiates, Divine Pulse is going to be unprocced, most likely than not, because her res is kind of low. So there's stuff like that. Because again, the special cooldown acceleration only happens at the start of the turn, and also after she initiates, or after combat happens, essentially. So her big gimmicks, of course, Speed Preempt 3 is Vantage if you're fast against ranged enemies, if you have more speed than them. And Divine Pulse is her biggest gimmick because she gets boosted damage, she's got skills off her speed, and she gets 75% damage reduction from the foe's next attack. So of course, Brave Weapons will just completely ignore the 75% damage reduction on the second attack. But also, her next attack will deal damage equal to 20% of her speed, so she can do a ton of damage if she stacks her speed well, which she kind of can. It's kind of weird because she's more about debuffing the foe during combat, but that helps proc Speed Preempt anyways. And of course, because this damage reduction is built into the special and there's no extra wording that says treat this damage reduction as a non-special skill, you can't meme over this damage reduction with something like Deadeye or Lethality. But she is a flyer, so it is completely possible for an archer like Duo Prom to still one-shot her through 75% damage reduction with Deadeye just by having pure raw damage output. So just as a simple example, let's just round up her HP to 40. All you need to do, quote unquote all you need to do, is do 160 damage. So the 75% reduces it to 40 and so she dies. With Deadeye, you only need to do 80 damage, and with her at her base hit stock here, just 31 defense. So that's 111 attack needed, but the fact that she is a flyer means you can use an archer and only need 74 attack. I believe, yeah, 74 attack to one-shot with Deadeye, which is completely within feasible range. So just a simple perspective. But even at plus 10 when she's maxed out, but no defense investment, and she has 2 legendary heroes giving her an extra plus 6 HP, it's still possible for units like Dual Prom to one-shot. You just need more attack with Deadeye. But you also have to survive the counter. The Vantage counter from speed caused by speed cramp. So that's one thing that she has going for her. It also works, of course, both phases. So people are goofing off with close counter sets like close salvo, or some people are doing, what is it called? Close reversal for extra defense. There's some weird stuff going around. You can totally do that. And I think for our purposes, she's going to be our main focus of summoning, just for the heck of it. It's more for... I think for fodder purposes, I would rather have Brave Prom. So we're going to be trying to summon for Brave Prom here on our free summons. Let's go ahead and get started because we've been rambling for way too long. Of course, we don't get them, so we'll go ahead and try. Let's go for Seliph. Since if we don't get anything in our free summons here in terms of the Brave Heroes, I think I might have to hold off on my actual free Brave Hero because I'm still deciding. I only know not Brave Adult Hickey, that's it. That's not particularly helpful. So, yeah, Brave Prom is purely for the fodder. Maybe I should just wait till Hero Fest and at that point pull 2 copies of them. It's mostly for the infantry speed tactic, but I don't know. I feel like by the time infantry speed tactic comes out, we kind of just, or by the time we get it, it's going to be pretty irrelevant for us. So, yeah, we're probably not going to do that. We're also, as you can see, not getting too many blue orbs, and we got it on the second circle there. And nothing much here on our actual summons. Pretty expected. But yeah. I just don't personally feel like it's worth me gambling my free Brave Hero as Brave Prom purely because you're gambling on what he has available for bonuses in the future when more and more of them get released. Of course, we all know a lot of the future bonuses are just going to be great effects. So I think theoretically he can't age poorly in that respect, but it's just, again, this current meta is super heavy on damage reduction, and none of these Brave Heroes have any direct checks to it. They just have some other gimmicks that set them apart, like Brave Self has pretty reasonable damage output. He also has his miracle memes. Funny thing to note though as well though, as expected also we didn't get anyone. Be right back. I had to go cough for a sec there, but none of these units have texture and damage reduction. The funny thing to know about Cell's Miracle though is if you attack in place into him, he doesn't have Miracle. So there's that meme counterplay because the proc condition is if unit or foe initiates combat after moving to a different space. So if you initiate combat against him without moving to a different space, he doesn't have miracle, which is I don't know how to feel about that. Because in the context of Ether Raid's defense, it's totally possible that someone does a hit and run, for example, and then the AI causes him to move really close towards the enemies such that they can just attack him without moving. So I'm not sure what to think about that. Also, if you have a crud ton of damage output, you can also just one round KO him with a brave weapon. Of course, these doesn't come with any damage reduction, but I think here it's between Byleth and Selith, and I think for me, we're just gonna go with Byleth for the heck of it. I don't think it's a good choice long term, but we're just going to do it for the memes. Maybe we'll try checking close counter on her or something and memeing around with that, but the problem is she doesn't start out with... She doesn't have advantage against all units with preempt. It's just ranged units. So if you really wanted to, you could combo with a near save unit, I guess, but then you just don't have a far save and you're heavily reliant on Brave Female Byleth, whose bulk is not that amazing, and of course she doesn't have Multi Disrupt, so yeah. I do feel like right now Selith is definitely the more user-friendly pick for the average player. Brave Prom is very dependent on player's skill and how much bonuses and shenanigans you have available right now. Brave Adult Hickey is fine. She's just straight out of the stock kit, perfectly fine. You can just start immediately using her call of the day. She uses the Distant Counter Dragon Seal, or DCD Seal, whatever you want to call it, pretty darn well. So I've seen plenty of people already doing that on her. So anyways, enough rambling. It's been a way too long of a video, but that's just a very high level summary. I say summary, but it's still way too long. Of what I think about the Brave Heroes, and of course, as expected, we only got our actual free pick. We didn't free summon anything else. So until next time, that's going to be it for this episode. Thanks for watching. As always, this is Ether Dragon, and hope to see you all next time. Bye.